Got a couple of things on the go today. First one is I received my new battery for this little UPS. I want to put that on my secondary NAS so that when we have those power glitches in the early morning, that one doesn't get shut down and restarted. At least it restarts by itself. The one in the lounge room, I had to put the proper UPS on that because if it gets a power outage, you have to manually restart. Might have to look into the settings and see whether that can be corrected. But anyway, I'll set up the tripod so you can see what happens here. It's pretty simple. So it's just a couple of pressing point natters. This one actually. Screws underneath. Undo. See where the transformer is. Discoloured the plastic. Okay, so far so good. Now what we have to do is try and get that to stay out of the way long enough to get the battery on. Take the protectors off. 2 leads, pretty easy. Just got to slide it in far enough to be able to get those on. Of course it's going to resist because the wires are going to be in the way. There's a plastic barrier that comes down with slots in it which the wires are supposed to sit in. Of course they don't want to sit in there naturally. Jam that up in there. Now try again. That's better. That's 1 done. 2 done. Do we have any charge of the battery? Yes, we do. Put those 2 screws back in and then put a power point connection onto it. Throw it away, Bruce. It's going to go beep periodically because it'll do that until it decides that I've had enough, I'm going to shut down. That's saying I don't have power applied. Long one would be good. I think I have a long one here. I have 2 long ones here. Are they long enough is the question. Let's see which one's the longer one. Okay, so I'll go with that one. Back and find a suitable power point. There's one over there. I just need to turn this around perhaps to make it reach. Okay, and now it has power. And it will stop beeping. So I'll give that a while to charge up, then I'll go and take it over and put it on the secondary nut. The other thing I've got on that I want to do today is I got one of my spare automatic transfer switches. On Dadang's house yesterday, the one that was there appears to have not worked because we had a power outage after dark last night. Oh, hang on, I'll change this so you can see me. Oh, more yet. Okay. Yeah, so we had a power outage after dark last night, and with an automatic transfer switch in place, when the suitably wired up, when the mains go off, it should switch across to the secondary input if that's available. Dadang's house was dark, so I checked, and the RCBO was on at my switchboard in my house for Dadang's feed. So I came over and took the cover off the switch box, and I put multimeter on the output leads. Nothing. Put the multimeter on the input leads from my house, 232 volts. So, okay. Put the switch to manual, switch the switch across to the feed from mains, then put it on auto, and it says okay, I've definitely got power from there, so it switched back, but it didn't connect anything to the output. So I think I've got a faulty one of those, so got to try and schedule some time for power to be shut off at Dadang's house while we change over to a replacement one of those. Then I might investigate what's happening with the other one. They are accessible, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. While I wait to coordinate with Dadang to replace the unit at his house, I thought I'd come and do a bit of prep on this one. What we have on these units is 2 lots of inputs, 1 set of outputs, and there's 2 modes. There's manual mode and auto mode. In auto mode, it will switch between the inputs. This is the preferred input, so if both inputs are available, it'll use the top one. If that input goes away, it will then switch to the lower one if that's available. But to know whether it's available or not, it has to actually be wired into these control lines here. So 2 wires from here to the first two connections on this, and 2 wires from here to the first 2 connections on this. And this is in fact how I control the one at the house to switch the old switchboard to off-grid during the day. What I do is actually have a timer inserted in one of these wires to the controls here, so that the timer will disconnect that control line between 9 AM and 9 PM, which forces it to switch across to using the off-grid input. And that means overnight, when the control lines are reconnected, it will preferentially switch to the public district network input, but if that happens to have an outage, it will go back to running from off-grid. So in this instance, we're using this as just a fallback situation. So what we want is for 2 wires from here to there and 2 wires from here to there. And what I'm going to do is set those up, and I will tin the ends of the wires so we can avoid the corrosion issue, which is chronic here. I'll get on with that. So there's my 4 prepared wires, now to fit them. So I'm 3/4 of the way there. These ones are particularly hard to do because they were screwed up very tight, and this screwdriver is not ideal for fitting in there. It needs to be a little bit narrower, but I managed to get those done. the cost of boring holes in my hand with the other end of the screwdriver. These ones don't want to do up for now for obvious reasons. That's where the supply wire's got to connect in when we take it over to Dadang's house. And if we need to get access to these and these wires are in the way, those little plug units plug out of the way so you can swing those up out of the way. Yeah, so I'll connect up the other two and then call this done for now. There we go. Now I just have to wait to coordinate with Dadang. And yeah, job's right. While waiting for Dadang's availability on that electrical job, I've been plotting how to replace this green hose that runs across to our house that has the well, it's supposed to be the potable water from the shed, rather than sort of coming across with the 19 litre gallons and then wheeling it back. I'd set that up previously so we could just have a tap in the back kitchen. But as it turned out, that hose is not the quality of the hose we get in Australia, because it didn't last a year. It actually blew out and it was, yeah, the plastic was degraded. So we're going to replace that with proper PVC pipe. So I was looking to how what pieces we need. So we're going to need a new T-piece up there, up to an elbow, across to an elbow, up to another elbow and across. And we'll put a T-piece up here a bit closer to the house so it goes straight down instead of coming out at an angle. And then that will go in and follow the path pretty much that hose follows there. Now I did actually have a T-piece there thinking that we'd run that hose into the house and perhaps put another outlet tap in the front kitchen, but we don't really need that. So instead of doing that, what we'll do is we'll run across there, elbow down, elbow across, and from there I don't quite know how it's going to work, but we'll actually run a pipe to Lise's back kitchen, or Lise's kitchen, which is the back of our house. So we'll have two houses running off that one pipe. And for equity, I always treat Lise and Dadang the same when it comes to these things. So we're going to do piped water to their kitchen too, which is actually a shorter path. And I've got to measure out how much of my stainless steel cable I've got, make sure I've got enough. This is the west end of the shed. What we do on that central vertical pillar there is install a masonry bolt, eye bolt thing, and run cable from there across to a point near the west end of this cable here through the wall, and that wall there behind the tree, that's where Siti and Dadang's kitchen is, so it'd just be a matter of coming down there. So that doesn't look too hard. So we're still at the west end of the shed here, that's the west wall. And that pillar I was talking about is that one right there. So what we do is in this pipe here, because that's the output of the filters and things. Oh look, Huntsman. We'll put a T connector in here with a valve on it, above it, going up and out and up. So that one's not going to be too hard to organise. So I mentioned all that to Jubaedah and she seemed to be in favour of it. Originally I didn't think she was that keen on replacing that hose, but now she seems to be, so okay. But having mentioned it to her and saying that I thought, oh, Lazra and Dadang and I could do this, she's contacted Johnny, who is the guy who did all this other stuff here, and when he's available it'll be organised to get him to come and do it. Okay, well, while he's here we'll get him to work on a couple of other things too. as usual, there's always more than one. Another thing I see here periodically is people wanting to put pressure in their tyres on their motor scooters using a compressor. I figure what I should do is just get a reservoir tank mounted to the wall out here with the tyre inflation coily hose put on it, and we can just pressurise it up using a compressor and then put the compressor away, and that way they can check the gauge on the tank, and if the gauge on the tank says I've got 100 psi, they go, alright, there's plenty in there to pump up my tyres. So I'll have a look at that. Well, not going to rush into that because we've got money, there's other things to spend the money on at the moment, but that won't be a hugely expensive task. Right, it's Friday and this is still sitting here unused. Dadang's a bit hard to get hold of. He appears to be out at the moment. His house is mostly locked up. And if I really wanted something more to do, I'd clean up this mess. Because yes, I have a mess here which I have largely self-generated. I wish I was tidier. But there's a whole lot of stuff in here which is not even seen the light of day yet. Stuff I brought from Melbourne. I have aquaponics stuff there which may or may not get used. Don't know. But anyway, it's Friday and I should get on with doing an upload for this week.